Hi, I'm Matt Bai, the political writer for the New York Times Magazine. I'm here with Michael Cooper, political reporter for the New York Times, who's been covering the McCain campaign most of this election. We're just standing at a rather amazing moment here at the New York Times newsroom. We've seen the speeches, the campaign's wrapped, they're choosing the photos for the front page, and we're just sitting here thinking about what it all means. I mean, Michael, had some thoughts about history watching this speech, just trying to see it as in a long view. And they're a little bit random, but in one sense, the thing that keeps coming back to me is the meaning not of the speech tonight, or even of the convention speech, but Barack Obama in 2004 in Boston. That speech was, in a sense, goes down, I think, tonight as one of the most pivotal, important speeches in American history, in the history of American politics, like Lincoln at Cooper Union or Ronald Reagan speaking to the faithful in the Goldwater's convention. You know, this idea, it launched that remarkable political rise.
It's funny because I was on the floor for that convention speech.
I was too, yeah.
And I remember thinking, like many other people thought, who is this guy? Why have the Democrats chosen somebody I've never heard of to be their keynote speaker?
Hadn't even been elected statewide.
Right. And that night I remember going back, and I think maybe I waited till the next morning, but I remember calling my wife and thinking, I think something big may have started here tonight, because he really blew the roof off that hall.
He did. He did, and again, I thought the same thing. I thought, this is your party. You got a guy who can't even get elected statewide yet, and you have him out, but it is one of those great moments in American politics. I also think, we talked a little bit about the barriers that fall today, and I think it will be represented tomorrow as this huge victory for African Americans. Mm-hmm. But I really believe that in the long view of history, it's more than that. It is the breaking up of a 220-odd year monopoly on the presidency, with one small incursion by John Kennedy, but really, a monopoly of white Protestant men that I think all groups, women, Jews, Asians, Italians, whoever else, I think all groups can look at this tonight as a breach of a monopoly. Mm-hmm. That I think it is a huge generational moment. It's a moment where you're in my generation, really the generation after the boomers, kicks down the door of American politics after a long and very unproductive governing period.
And that was a big part of his appeal the whole time. He was the promise to turn the page on the divisive baby boomer politics and stuff, and there was doubt about whether it would happen. But
I think that's right. Now tell me this. Who's the real John McCain? Is it the guy we saw give this incredibly gracious speech, the guy who went on Saturday Night Live in the last week, the guy we said, oh, that's John McCain, the really likable guy? Or is it the guy who went with Sarah Palin outright hard after the right-wing base of the Republican Party?
Well, I wouldn't pretend to know who the real one was, but we certainly saw a number of John McCains this election. I mean, when we started off, he was sort of the old happy warrior trying to recreate the 2000 mavericky kind of McCain. Then, things, his campaign fell apart, and suddenly he found himself really scrounging for the nomination, and he made a series of decisions that turned him into a very different candidate. He had to firm up his base with the Republican Party. Instead of moving to the center as the general election progressed, he moved to the right. The drill here, drill now,
right.
Drill baby, drill.
Yeah.
And this man who had become sort of famous for a different brand of politics, for decrying, the swift boat politics, right. Even when he was campaigning at the side of President Bush, suddenly launched a very tough, aggressive campaign that, to some extent, kind of tarnished his brand a little bit.
It struck me as very poignant, this moment in the very beginning of his concession speech, which was, I really think, a very gracious, actually quite moving speech, where it sounded like he was almost wistful when he talked about the inspiration Obama had brought. It struck me that he wanted to be that candidate, that he had started out in 2000 with the hopes of being that kind of American change and had watched someone else become it.
Absolutely true. I mean, there's one line that's been in McCain's speeches forever where he's exhorting people to serve a cause greater than their own self-interest.
Right. It's been there forever.
It's been there forever. And I think when they saw Obama in a new formulation saying the same thing but getting much more adulation and really, truly inspiring thousands of people to come out, I think it rankled them a little bit, thinking, why can't we get this?
Yeah, and maybe that anger, maybe the resentment over that seeped into his campaign a little bit.
It seemed to. I mean, certainly at the end, there were points where there was a lot of disdain. It seemed like his speeches would drip with disdain for Barack Obama. I remember seeing him in Pennsylvania a couple of weeks ago when he was talking about, his energy policy, blah, 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 and just,
right.
Kind of belittling him in every way.
Right, very. I mean, there is a continuum, I think, too, you can draw. I heard them saying on TV, well, the country that elected George W. Bush in 2000 has now elected Barack Obama in 2008. How do you square that? But if you look to the McCain phenomenon of 2000, even the Perot phenomenon, going back further, but the McCain phenomenon, the Bush campaign of 2000 to Obama now, there is a deep desire, I think, in America for a sort of post-partisan, more cooperative, turning of the page of this past period. That's really what Bush was talking about in 2000. People forget that. It's what Perot was about. It's what McCain was about in 2000. It's what brought both McCain and Obama to this campaign. I think there's a real line of continuity there.
And there was something full circle about tonight, because both McCain and Obama started out, and there was sort of this promise that maybe they would be post-partisan, maybe they would run a different kind of campaign. Things inevitably got ugly and tough. But then tonight you saw first McCain pledging to work with President Obama to get things done, and then you saw Obama pledging to work with the Republicans and actually devoting a fair bit of his speech in Grant Park to the ideals of the Republican Party.
It's really something, and I think that's well put. Well, I'm with Michael Cooper in the New York Times. This is Matt Bai with the New York Times Magazine, and that is a wrap on a very long and very fascinating 2008 campaign. Thanks.
Thank you.